To kick things off, we are going to go to a story about Burning Man.
Coming to you live from
Burning Man.
Welcome to the camp of the unknown God.
Yes, Basil is trying to find his mates over there at the camp of the unknown God. And we'll see if, again, he'll tap in or at least message me or something, buddy. Let me know you're okay out there because, you know, it is kind of a thing. In fact, before we start, we should go ahead and call upon the producers.
Producers, assemble!
Yeah, just pray for Basil, his safety, and not just spiritually, but we've all prayed for that, but just his physical safety and his ability to connect with Wi-Fi. If the Lord can make those alleged Starlink satellites connect so that we can get a message from Basil, that'll be fantastic. All right, so this is from dailymail.co.uk, and the headline here, nearly 80,000 costumed revelers to arrive in Nevada desert for week-long Burning Man festival. And, you know, it says costumed revelers in the headline. Maybe he got rejected, you know, because he wasn't wearing a costume. Although that would be odd because his whole thing is in a costume. Let's see what it says. Return of the Burn. Black Rock City comes alive as thousands of revelers rock up in their RVs for a week-long Burning Man festival after 2-year COVID hiatus. Burning Man has been a tradition in the Nevada desert for the past 36 years, but in 2020, event organizers decided to cancel the annual event due to concerns over COVID-19. The next year, the organizers decided to plan a virtual burn, though thousands decided to take matters into their own hands and hold a makeshift event in the desert themselves. But this year, the week-long event is back on track, with event organizers announcing on their website, quote, "After several long years, we are going home," home with a capital H. And I have to point out that, you know, every time we hear from these folks from the Burning Man type of stuff, these transformative events, they always speak in spiritual language. You know, they always have kind of a spiritual undertone to everything they say. For example, the continued quote here, "It's time to resume our waking dreams and look to the future as we rebuild and recreate together." And if you talk about the fall, coming from my worldview and a lot of you guys listening, the producers and everybody who share a similar worldview, there is this desire for man to build and rebuild, this ideal that exists in the minds of men that, hey, there's perfection. We got to perfect society. We have to perfect man. And I think it's very fascinating because where does that come from? Where does that desire come from? Well, you know, if you ask an atheist or maybe a secularist or someone, they might say, well, you look around and things are failing. The church has failed. And people fail all the time. And you have to say, well, if you're an evolutionist, isn't that part of the design of evolution? Because the ability to lie or the ability to be cunning or something like that is beneficial for the survival of the fittest thesis. But they're not satisfied with that. They long for a world that is more peaceful and harmonious and things like that. And if you look at the biblical narrative, it's there. The Garden of Eden, we had it, you know, and we lost it because of our inability to obey God's simple commands. And I mean, if you look at human history, that's all it is humans failing to abide to God's simple commands. But I point that out because, you know, it's been on my mind a lot with the pushback from, you know, certain people and certain producers and stuff, which is totally fine. I really think that this is healthy. This is healthy in the, you know, in-house church conversation kind of way, a familial differences kind of way, because do you agree? Let me give you an example. Do you agree with everything about everything with your family members, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, your mom, your dad? Guaranteed. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Guaranteed that there are things that you disagree about, from whether it be your favorite dish to whether there's a God or not, you know, and everything in between. So, you know, having differences in opinion about this mission that Basil is on as part of, you know, Carl Teichreb's ministry and everything else, it's okay. I think it's actually good. It's okay because you want to flesh things out. Iron sharpens iron. And it doesn't mean that, we love you less or we think you're not saved if you disagree with us or something like that. That's not the point. But the other thing I wanted to mention is that the spiritual language, the spiritual undertone that is always part of the discussion here with people that go to places like Burning Man, they are seekers. There are people there that are there, shamans and stuff like that are organizing, they're leading the way in terms of leading them astray, I would say, spiritually. But the vast majority of the 80,000 people that go there, they go there for two reasons. One is either they're just there to have a good time. They just want to party, whatever, right? But there are a good amount of people that go looking for something. They're seekers. They want truth. They want the reality of the world to be expressed to them. They want to know the truth. They're seekers. And if there isn't somebody representing God's presence there, shining a light on the darkness, then we might be doing it wrong. We might be doing ministry wrong if we're just preaching to the choir, and it gets into a whole thing. I've been reading some stuff and listening to some sermons and doing all that kind of stuff to kind of feed my own thing. And I don't want to get into it because that's not what this show's about, but I just want those who disagree to understand that, number one, it's okay to disagree. Number two, these are people that are seeking the truth. And, you got to have people there that know the truth to express it to people, to communicate it. And it's not to convert people, that's not the point, but maybe you can have a conversation. Maybe you can build a relationship with people that does lead to the salvation of souls. Maybe you can put a rock in someone's shoe, make them think about why they're there, really reflect on, where they are in life and things like that. So again, little side note thing, but it's important to think about these things in a wider perspective. And again, it's okay to disagree. All right, so look back to this article here. The theme of this year's event, dubbed a temporary metropolis dedicated to community, art, self-expression, and self-reliance, is Waking Dreams. Interesting, isn't it? Yeah, we don't need God. We just need self-reliance. But that's on the spiritual level. On the more physical level, you can maybe agree a little bit with the self-reliance thing. It's we don't need governments to tell us what to do and to tell us how we should live our lives and how we should spend our money and all that kind of stuff. So that rebellion against authority, I could relate to it on a kind of a carnal level. But again, they're multiple layers. And then Waking Dreams, the theme. According to the organizers, after a long hazy blur of pandemic insomnia, as if a majority of the people at Burning Man are going to have such clarity on everything. They're not going to be in a hazy blur this week. Anyway, adrift between sleeping and waking, it's time to start imagining the future again. This week-long festival finally began Sunday morning as a 7-square-mile makeshift encampment called Black Rock City, where free-spirited individuals who spent $575 each to attend this year's event can enjoy a multitude of parties, art installations, and even some things that are not good, and free food. It will all wrap up on September 4th with the burning of an effigy known as the Burning Man. And there's a photo there, and you have to admit that the art is amazing. But again, there's always sort of the spiritual thing behind it, right? And there's some photos here, people dressed up, having a good old time. Some the photos and things you see, it really is. I have to say that this is psychological preparation for the metaverse, because the metaverse that I've seen that they're building so far, it's just kind of what this is. What you imagine to be. In terms of just all the wild things that you encounter in a world that is virtual, that you can basically create anything you want, anything you'd imagine to do, you can do. Sound familiar? Genesis chapter 11, Tower of Babel. It features dozens of sculptures as well as a multitude of events, from parties to meditation sessions. No prayer sessions? Among the many events expected this year are plenty of scheduled parties where so-called burners can meet one another, enjoy some music, and, of course, some alcohol. There will be music choices for everyone, from Latin music to jazz sessions to 80s pop concerts and discos. More meditative activities will be offered for those who want something a little calmer, including a hammock forest, Now, listen, just a hammock forest by itself does not sound like a bad thing. If I found myself stuck in Burning Man, I'd hang out at the hammock forest, just to kind of, chill out and sleep in a hammock. A hypnotherapy session and a communal peppermint bomb breathwork exercises, according to the San Francisco Gate. Meanwhile, more active revelers can stack and climb milk crates. Oh, wow. Isn't that a trend thing where people are doing? Kind of dangerous. And for those who are expecting to get physical with one of the many projectile throwing contests or a foam weapon fight, a bikini armor crafting workshop is recommended. All right. And for those who want to expand their mind, Burning Man will also offer several educational sessions on topics like the intersection of artificial intelligence and astronomy, as well as the use of psychedelics in surgeries. Also new this year is the camp on the playa, the section of the desert where the event takes place, called Consensual Abduction, where guests can climb through a wormhole slide to arrive at a dance floor for all-night raves. Or, I said that weird. For all-night raves. And there's more stuff there. The usual pagan-esque activities that are part of the culture and lore of Burning Man. And, there's an interesting piece of art here that I'm looking at. It's kind of like a cage. It's like a three segment cage, kind of like a clock tower at the top there. And it's got these 3 legs on it. And yeah, it's very, very bizarre. Lots of time and energy goes into building these things. I mean, it is not a quick thing. These sculptures and everything else. And again, I recommend you go listen to some of the older episodes of Canary Cry NewsTalk, just because you'll get a sense of the kinds of things that are there, what it's like to walk around. Basil had his microphone and he was walking around and just running into random people and everything else. And it really, I think, is helpful to understand that, again, these are just people seeking something, seeking to fulfill the void, and trying to do it with all the wrong things, I would say. But there you go. That's a little quick article. We'll hopefully hear from Basil as he is able to settle in and find out what he's up to. So I did have something completely unrelated as a story, just in case Basil did show up, because then, talking about this article would have been kind of pointless. And that's just the breaking stuff about stuff going on in Iraq. Shells fired at Baghdad Green Zone security sources. At least 7 shells fell Monday in Baghdad's fortified Green Zone, a security source said, as chaos erupted after Iraqi Shia cleric Mustafa al-Sadir said he was quitting politics. So yeah, Baghdad under a little bit of turmoil there. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that because that was breaking as I was putting this episode together. And it is one of those things that requires a little more deep dive, I guess, or a little more analysis. But nevertheless, there you go. That's our little intro. And again, you'll have to forgive me because what I do normally when Basil's talking is I'm prepping for the next thing, right? So if it's a jingle, if it's the next slide or the next thing you see on screen, that's what I'm doing. But because I don't have Basil to do that today, I'll be the one rambling, and there's a great chance that I will mess up on something. So please be kind.